We'll start with the broadcast section with no embargo, followed by an embargo section for 10:30 p.m. tonight. No live tweeting during the broadcast section, please, and phones on silent. James.
Ange, good afternoon. Final preparations tomorrow then before the season starts. What's your assessment on how everything's gone with the pre-season tours and this week with the welcome back of a few of your players too?
Yeah, it's been pretty good, pretty solid. Tour was good, well organised, kind of less disruptive than sort of last year's pre-season in terms of just training, and the games were really good. Each game was a little bit more of a challenge for us, and conditions were tough, but players got through it really well. And as you said, we got the internationals back this week, so we've had a really good week of training with them back. They help just with the quality and intensity of our training. And the key thing for us is that up to date, and we've still got sort of 10 days to go. We've put in a good sort of block of work, and for the most part, everyone is pretty healthy, which I guess from our point of view is the most important thing.
Do you feel in a better place going into this season than you did in your first season last year?
Well, I feel we're better prepared for sure, because this time last year there was still a lot of things happening, a lot of sort of comings and goings, and like I said, our pre-season tour was pretty disruptive, and we probably didn't have the games we wanted to, and it was a little bit of a leap into the unknown, whereas I think, as I said, it feels like we're better prepared. Certainly the training sessions have gone up a notch this year compared to last year, and that's because of player familiarity and the coaches we have. So I think everyone thinks they've had a fantastic pre-season, but until we get to that first game, none of us really know. But as I sit here right now, I think we're well prepared.
A transfer window in full flow as it is. I know you mentioned last year dealing with ins and outs, particularly Harry Kane, who you'll be welcoming him back tomorrow. Story this morning about Tottenham in advanced talks with Bournemouth over Dominic Solanke. Is there any truth in that? Is there anything you can add from your side? And is he maybe the player or the striker that you've been looking to bring in since Harry left the club last year?
I don't think we've been looking to replace Harry. I think I said a number of times last year, you can't really replace a generational player. There's a reason they kind of stand apart. But fair to say that's an area of the park, the front third, where we really believe we needed to sort of reinforce this year. We've been working hard to try and get the right kind of players into those areas that we need. For another challenging season ahead. Obviously, we're back in Europe, which means more games, and the one thing coming out of last year was that when we had disruptions in terms of injuries or suspensions, there was a real drop off, and we want to sort of try and mitigate that this year by having a stronger squad to cope with everything we do.
And finally, I'm sure others will maybe press a bit more on Solanke, but also reports about Emerson Royale's future potentially might be moving over to Italy. Is there truth behind that? Is he a player is he a player in a certain area of the pitch that you have plenty of cover for, that you're willing to let go?
Yeah, look, I think me sort of speculating around these things, a bit like. It's a bit like the treasurer, or what do you call them here, the exchequer. If I speculate, stock markets could crash, mate, or in our world, Twitter or X, whatever, it could go into meltdown if I start speculating about things. So, look, it's fair to say we've still got some work to do in the transfer window, and hopefully, those kind of things, they will get resolved. It's a little bit difficult for me because I don't have a control over that to kind of be definitive about it, but. Like I said, I'm hopeful that over the next sort of few days there'll be some resolution, both ins and outs.
Hi Ange, could I ask you about Richarlison? He's sort of one who, you're talking a lot about adding to the attack, but he's one who's maybe had an uncertain future, but he's come out and said he wants to stay at Tottenham. How do you feel about him sort of saying that, and where his future lies with all that's going on?
Yeah, I'm not really sure where the uncertain future comes from, not from my behalf. When he was fit last year, he played all the time, and he played well, but it was quite evident that when he was missing, we had to play Sonny in there, and we had to sort of cover areas. So this is not about sort of, replacing Richie or, for us, it's about adding to our squad. We want to get stronger out of every transfer window we've had, and from my perspective, I've seen Richie as part of what we're trying to build here. And like I said, last year when he played, he was very, very good for us. And hopefully this year we keep him healthy and he plays more. Having some more quality and depth in that front third hopefully means we can sort of protect our players a little bit more and cover their absences when they're not there.
And he improved under your manager, under your leadership last season. But do you think that he can still thrive if there's another, say, big number 9 like the profiles that are being discussed out there at the moment?
I don't see why that would hamper. I'd like to think that us being stronger as a team, I think every player who's here would want us to get better. I think if you want to be a club that challenges for trophies, you need to have a strong squad, and that means having good quality players all over the park. And I certainly, as I said, when there's plenty of evidence last year to show that our absences cost us a fair bit last year, and I want to try and mitigate that.
And is there also a type of player in your squad that sort of is facing an uncertain future? Maybe not Richie, but some of the other ones. Oliver Skipp's in that sort of category, maybe, and Maynard Solomon. And how are those guys dealing with it, and how do you sort of expect them to deal with it?
Again, I think a lot of those things are kind of also in the players' hands about where they see themselves and sort of what they want out of their careers. And I've always kind of had the same sort of thought process around these things. Where they're with us, they're with us, and that doesn't mean that things won't change, and you have to embrace that or accept that as a manager and as players that things change. But while they're here, and as I said, a lot of that will be dictated by the players themselves. I do think that depending on the individual players, they've got a career, they've got to sort of manage themselves as well, about whether they think that this is the right place for them to keep progressing. And I always respected the fact that a lot of these decisions also come down to them.
Jerry.
Hi Ange, could you just talk through the recruitment process a little bit? Obviously, I'm guessing it's quite a collaborative effort. You look at a lot of stats as well, but how important is the character and the temperament of the sort of player you want to bring in?
Yeah, really important for me. I think I've said that on a number of occasions that it's I guess the environment we want to build and even the way we play is fairly unique, and I think you need to be a certain kind of personality and character to embrace that. Obviously the playing qualities are paramount, but there's a lot of good footballers in the world. There's plenty of good footballers, and sometimes what differentiates them is the kind of personality and character they have, and I put great stock into that. It's not an exact science, to be fair, so it's not something that necessarily is data driven as to what kind of person they are, but I think there's a process that you can go through that sort of assures you that I've spoken about it before, is a big part for me is the motivation of why they want to come to us as opposed to anywhere else, and we kind of try and make sure that for the most part we try and get that right.
And obviously, a year into the job, what do you think the expectation levels are from the fans for this year, and obviously from yourself and the players?
I think the fans' expectations every year are that they want to see their club winning, and being successful. I don't think that necessarily should change or diminish just because of change. Particularly at this football club, it's a big football club, and it's been there or thereabouts for a very long time. So you'd like to think that our fans are optimistic about the season ahead, but for me, it still comes down to the basic core principles of we need to improve on last year, the areas where we kind of fell short, and build on the areas that we did really well, because what we do know in the Premier League is that the competition doesn't stand still. It's the teams ahead of us and the teams around us or behind us, don't stay in the same place necessarily. They improve. So for us, if we don't improve, we kind of lose ground from where we are. So we need to try and improve at a greater rate than the opposition, and that's what we want to do. We want to push on from last year, and if we can improve our football, be more consistent, I think it'll put us in a decent place.
last one from me. Huge game tomorrow at Bayern Munich. It's a glamour fixture, isn't it? Harry Kane will be there, you know, whatever part he'll play. But this time last year, he played his one and only game for you, scored a hat-trick. Did it sort of give you a glimpse of what a player like Kane can do wherever he is, sort of thing?
Yeah, I think he scored more than a hat-trick. I think I only got 4 or 5. And people questioning whether I could fit him into my system. So I reckon he did all right in that game. So, look, he's a quality player. And he proved that last year. You know, he went to the Bundesliga, broke records, he scored goals. Outstanding player. I mean, I hope it's a good day for him tomorrow in terms of before the game, not during the game, because he's a generational player, as I said. And when these players leave clubs, sometimes it's not in a nice, neat bow where they can say goodbye and get acknowledged in the right way. So I'm sure our fans will definitely give him the welcome he deserves, and I'm sure he'll appreciate it tomorrow. It should be hopefully a good day for him, like I said, until the whistle goes, and then hopefully we make it a bit more miserable for him.
I'll finish this section with Rob, please.
Hi, Ange. Just ask you for the latest on the injury front, and has Richarlison returned to first-team training?
Yeah, I mean, the main two actually 3 injury ones we had through the pre-season was Richie, Destiny and Fraser Foster. They missed the back end of last year, and they've all sort of come back at different stages, but Destiny's had a good 2-week block of training, so he'll play some part tomorrow, which is positive for us. Richie and Fraser have got back into training this week and have had both of them sort of had a good block of training. Won't feature tomorrow, but with another week's training before the start of the season, hopefully they'll be in a good place. But they were the main ones. Everyone else, as I said, has had a pretty solid pre-season.
Those returning from the international tournaments, are they in a position to start tomorrow?
They'll play. It's probably not ideal, but again, it's our only game before our first fixture, and they've come back in good condition. I mean, they've all looked after themselves. Again, they've had a good week of training, so they'll get some minutes tomorrow. Unlikely to sort of start the game, but we'll try and get some minutes more tomorrow, and then obviously our first league game's on a Monday night, so we get a few extra days of training with them next week.
Alfie Devine's had a really good summer once again. Is the plan for this season for him to stay with the squad, or do you think another loan move's going to be on the agenda?
Yeah, we're kind of just have a look at it really closely. I agree with you. I think Alfie's had a really good pre-season. I think, again, we compare it to last year, he's definitely developed, and part of that's probably because he did play senior football last year on loan. So it's kind of, a lot of that will be judged by what sort of outs we have between now and the start of the season. I wouldn't want to sort of keep him with us unless I've really felt he gets some significant game time, because I don't want to stunt his development, because I think he is a player that could make an impact here at Spurs. But fair to say him and the other younger guys, Jamie Donnelly, Will Lancashire, they've really made an impression, with both the way they've trained and the way they've played games, and we'll have a close look at sort of what the next steps are for them.
Thanks, Ange.
Okay, we'll move on to the embargoed section for 10:30 p.m. tonight. Dom.